Hi guys, so before I dissect World Gone Mad specifically, let's take a look at any song in general. If you were to dissect any song to its and break it down to its most basic components, you'll find that it's actually a combination of two elements, chord progression and the melody on top of that. So normally what you'd have is several parts in the song where you'd have a specific chord progression with a specific melody on top of it, and that would be the verse. Then there would be another chord progression with another melody on top of it, that would be the chorus, and sometimes there's a pre-chorus, sometimes there's a bridge. Different songs can be composed of different parts depending on the complexity, depending on how progressive the song is, and so on. The thing about World Gone Mad, the interesting thing about it, but also the challenging thing about it, is that it's only made of two chords. The key is F minor sharp, but the song itself is made of a D, major D chord, and on the other hand, F minor sharp. The whole song goes like. So the challenging thing in a situation like that is, how do you make it interesting enough? How do you break down the potential boredom? Well, first things first, it's not a very long song, it's only 3.5 minutes, I think. And the tempo is 160 BPM, which is quite fast. It has a good drive to it, there's a good pace to it already. But the most important thing that I wanted to talk about when you have a simple-ish song like that in terms of chord progression, it's only composed of two chords, is dynamics. So how do you juggle with the dynamics to make a song that simple interesting, not make any of the parts sound exactly like the other? Dynamics work when we basically juggle with the layering. What I mean by layering is the amount of things playing at the same time in a specific part. So in verse number 1, verse number 2, if you don't want them to sound exactly the same, then there has to be at least one element added to verse number 2, which will not make it sound exactly the same as verse number 1, even though it's exactly the same chord progression and the same melody. Let me start with the guitars first. Well, the first thing you hear when you hear the song is the main riff. Which is I don't even know the chord of it, it's a diminished D or something, because but then that note here makes it more sound like an E. I don't know, it must be something like, if you know the neck of your guitar well, then you can find these patterns pretty much anywhere, right? But the real driving force behind the song, meaning the only guitar part that never changes, it's always there, even if your ear doesn't really perceive it, it's feeling it, because that's really the engine of the song, is this specific riff here going like this. Which, to my understanding, and I don't know music theory at all, like my knowledge is very basic, it's a D chord, it's an inverted D chord, a 5 and a 1 with two notes, the 5 and the 1. And at some point the 1, meaning the D, shifts to a D flat. And because it's a song that sort of have a punk feel, you shouldn't be too shy to really strum these chords hard. Even if if it feels dirty at times, that's exactly the point. It doesn't have to be super clean the whole time. So this really is one of the two only things that don't change. The only other thing that doesn't change throughout the whole song is the bass line. It's the same bass line throughout. I don't have a bass guitar on me now to play it, but so I'm gonna play it on the guitar just to show you what it sounds like. So see, the bass riff as well is constantly shifting between D and then F sharp. I didn't actually play the bass myself on that track. It's my very good friend Jawad Naufal who played it, and I'm very happy he did that. You guys probably know him as the electronic musician Munma. Most people don't even know that he plays the bass. He does, and I'm very happy that he's doing that with me. So really, this riff here on the guitar, and then on the bass guitar, sorry. These are the only two things that you hear throughout the whole song. Now, every now and then, the riff comes back. To remind you of the main theme of the song and also to ensure the transition between the different parts. In terms of dynamics, so the first verse vocally starts with a very low pitch. So it goes like,
all this time beaten out of line, everyone's crazy in this town.
And then what makes the difference between the first verse and the second verse is that on the second one there's an added layer of that same melody, those same words, everything, but one pitch, one octave higher. So you're hearing, and on top of it you're hearing,
world's gone mad, maybe I'm your type.
So now we have the first verse with a simple low-pitched vocal melody, the second verse with the same vocal melody, but it's actually doubled because one is low-pitched and the other one is one octave higher. And then we get to the first chorus where all of a sudden the song opens because we have so many elements coming together. We have the driving riff of the song. On top of it we have the chords playing. On top of all of that, you also have the main riff of the song. What adds even more to the power of this part is the vocals, because the pitch is much higher than the rest, so it's very pretty screamy. It's very gritty and screamy, and it really pierces through these mid frequencies. Now we're done with the first part of the song, having two verses and one chorus. Then we go back to the main riff and then to the second verse. What happens with the second verse is that you don't hear the low-pitched voice anymore. You're only hearing the octave higher, which is more twangy, more sleazy, more nasal, which is how I like to sing. And then when the second chorus kicks in, it's slightly different than the first one because it's repeated twice. And in order for it not to be too monotonous in that repetition, what happens in the second time we play that chorus, we add a vocal harmony to what we did before. So first we were doing
the reason why you want my body's crazy.
Yep. And then on top of it we played
no reason why you want my body's crazy.
And the result,
no reason why you want my body's crazy.
also, on that second half of the chorus, what's happening is that the drums are also changing. Normally the drums is only playing the snare, it's a 160 BPM and the drums are only playing the snare on the 2 and 4, so you're getting 1 chop, 2 chop, 1 chop, 2 chop. in the second part of the chorus here, the snare is playing every single beat. So it's going cha 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 cha, which makes it heavier and creates also a faster pace to the whole tune. And then right after that second chorus, you have the guitar solo, which is not, once again, what's interesting about it is that it's not a complex guitar solo at all. It's simply composed of 4 notes, these 4 here. But they're being played, I mean, so really that's the only thing that's happening over and over again. This was inspired by when I was a child, when I was a teenage kid, one of my favorite solos was Ace Frehley playing Love Gun. It's a song by Kiss. And in that solo, Ace basically plays the same riff over and over again. So he's playing the same melody, the same guitar melody, but the chord progression is changing, which gives it a whole different feel. So all he's doing is so it sounds like he's just doing the same thing, but when you hear the chords behind it changing, the feel becomes magnificent. And I tried kind of to do the same thing here. The chords didn't change, but what changed is that the beat got cut in half. So the second part of the guitar solo, what happens is that we drop the drum beat from 160 to 80. So instead of tum cha, we're going to tum cha, cha, and everything takes a different feel here. Even the groove of the bass, which hasn't changed because the bass is still playing the same thing, but it just sounds so different when it's played at 160 BPM and then when it's grooving with the 80 BPM, basically sliced in half. Take a listen. There you go. Right after that, there's the break, the kind of like the spoken part. Here too, that guitar part. This is the only guitar you're hearing. That's the only thing that is still consistent. And on top of it, I was listening a lot to Mike Patton at that time, and I still do listen to Mike Patton a lot. Faith No More, Lovage, Mr. Bungle. He's one of my favorite singers. This guy can do anything with his voice. You know, it's a particular type of tone that's used. No pitch, just a lot of air. If you want to emulate this kind of delivery, it's known as the frustrated teenager grunt. You know, the world come back behind me. Which leads us to the outro, to the end of the song, and then we're doing the same chorus again, 4 times this time. Only that on the 3rd and the 4th time that we're playing the chorus, we also added a layer to make it slightly different, which is the solo, the guitar solo. Even if you don't hear it, you can sense that there's something different that happened when the chorus starts repeating the 3rd and the 4th time. And that's dynamics. You don't necessarily hear, you don't necessarily perceive the changes in your ear, but you can feel these differences as the song is progressing. All in all, I don't know, it's an exciting song, it's an exciting exercise to write a song that simple and its core elements, just 2 main chords, and trying to make it as interesting and the least boring possible. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think.